Hey guys, so for this next video, I want to act like this car has an internal combustion engine. I'm not going to do any planning, and I want to just type in Breckenridge, Colorado, because I want to see the Blue Lakes, and I want to just let the computer do everything. And I'm just going to give you guys the data as I go, and I really want to see if Ford, with their algorithm of how much range we have left and where we're supposed to stop to charge, I want to make sure that that algorithm actually has elevation in it. Because now when you type in a destination, I know the algorithm is checking like, okay, what's the current percentage of the battery? What's the cabin temperature, what's the air temperature outside, and then what's the temperature of the battery, because the battery needs to be nice and warm at an operating temperature, and it needs to feed energy into that to either cool it or heat it. And then it's actually going to look at your average miles per kilowatt to understand like, hey, okay, he's driving every single day, he's doing X amount of miles, he's doing this X amount of average speed. So let's all add this all together. And if he were to go on the highway, he's most likely going to get a 20% decline in range. And this is how far he can go on a charge. And your odometer and everything, your center screen should show what it truly should be when you get there. So if it's 100 miles away, it might say, hey, you only have 200 miles of range on a full tank because of all these conditions. And I really want to know is because yesterday I just spontaneously went to Estes Park from Westminster, Colorado. And if you guys know that, Westminster is approximately 5,200 feet above sea level. And Estes Park is like 7,500 roughly. So I had to climb about 3,000 feet. Well, me not planning whatsoever, I had 100 miles of range left. It was approximately 60 miles to get there, and I used up about 80 miles of range to get there. So I was kind of nervous. Range anxiety was very real, and I had about 20 miles left on my range when I got there. And the computer did pretty well. It estimated that I'd get there with about 15% of battery life left. Well, it was off by 10%. The negative way. So when I got there, I was at 5% left. And usually, like all my other videos show, this vehicle is always about 10% more conservative. So if you type in a location without any elevation, I'm talking about just going to the store or whatever, like 20 miles away, it's going to add about 10% onto that to say, hey, it's 20 miles away and we're estimating you're going to use approximately like 22 miles of range. In reality, you use, 18 miles. Now for this video, like I said, I'm just gonna type in Breckenridge, Colorado. I know Breckenridge is 9,600 feet above sea level, and currently I'm at about 5,200 in Westminster. So it's gonna take about 2 hours to get there. I'm gonna bring you guys along, and I'm just gonna type in Breckenridge and let the computer do everything. I know that the computer is gonna tell me to stop at an Electrify America, most likely at a Walmart, and I have to stop at least once, and I kind of already did all of this, but it said to stop for like 15 minutes just to charge up. So I'm gonna give you guys all of that data as I go, and I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible. So the whole reason for this video is yesterday I was talking with my friend Jojo, and he bought the Tesla Model Y the exact same time I bought this Mach-E. And what I lack is the supercharger network. Now, Estes Park had one supercharger like location in all of that Estes Park. Well, for us, we had the EV Connect and Charge Point and all that kind of stuff. Well, I was curious if Tesla actually accounts for elevation, because elevation significantly reduces your range. Like, think worst case scenario, like 50%, because that's at least what I've seen, and I've been driving in the mountains frequently. So going up a mountain, expect about 50% less range. But coming down the mountain, expect to use absolutely no energy whatsoever. It was ridiculous, because going up the mountain, I was averaging like 2 to 2.5 miles per kilowatt. I normally do 3.7. That's my long term at least. And Coming down, actually, I maxed out the meter at 20.7 miles per kilowatt, and it was like, I don't know, I think it was like 20 to 30 miles of just basically downhill. So I was regenning constantly. And for my ultimate, like, to get home, I had to go down the mountain, and then I got onto Interstate 36, and I was doing about 70 miles an hour to get home back to Westminster. And this screenshot, you can see that I averaged about 6.2 miles per kilowatt, which was phenomenal. So going up the hill, definitely going to see some drastic range reduction. But going down the hill, expect to use very little energy, and that's exactly what I'm thinking today. Is going up Breckenridge, we're going up, God, almost like 4,000 to 5,000 feet. That is going to be a toll on this battery. All right, guys, so these are going to be my constants. We have down here, I'm going to keep it at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're going to reset the trip meter. So on this trip, we're going to use trip 2, which is actually my long term. So I have almost 10,000 miles on my vehicle. I'm getting about 3.7 miles per kilowatt. We're going to reset that. Cool. So now it's zeroed out. And again, it's 50 degrees here in Westminster, but I think it's going to be only like 30, 32 in Breckenridge, because at that high of altitude, altitude elevation. And then just for reference, payload for this car, I have approximately 300 pounds, so about 200 pounds for me. And then we have 100 pounds of equipment in this car, which is basically a car seat, camera gear, etc. So keep all of that into account. Now what we're going to do is just nice and easy. We're going to go to the map, and we're going to go to, you know what, actually before I do that, I'm going to show you guys that I am currently at 107 miles with 42% range left. Blue Lakes, Breckenridge. Okay, so it's going to say we have weather on the route, plus we're about 97 miles, and there's tolls as well. So we're going to hit go.
Obey traffic laws. Be alert and use voice commands while driving.
Now let's go to the, well, that was weird. But let's go to this. So it's going to say, like, we have to go to an Electrify America station at Walmart, approximately in Denver. It's in 11 miles, and we have to charge for 15 minutes, so we get up to 48%. And then it's estimating we're going to get there at with 18% left. We're going to see. And at this Electrify America, I'm going to charge up as much as I can too, because this really isn't about like the full range. I want to just see if this is correct or not with what we're thinking. So I'm going to do this again once we get to Electrify America Walmart. So we are here at Walmart, and we have Electrify America stations right here, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is, it's 150 kilowatt for CCS, so not bad whatsoever. And I'm going to just charge up. I'm going to head inside to get some little bit of supplies, definitely water. Anybody visiting Colorado, what I suggest is don't be dumb. When you guys visit the mountains, this is very high elevation. Make sure you have plenty of water, because I've seen a lot of tourists basically like collapse and everything because they're like, oh, it's just like being at sea level. It's not. It really is not. Always make sure you bring plenty of water. I have a gallon of water with me today, and bring some snacks. Don't get hungry or any of that stuff. You're going to go into the mountains. We're going 10,000 feet above sea level. It takes a toll on the body, so be smart. Again, I'm going to run inside for some supplies, and then right after, I'm going to show you what the computer says. All right, so I'm fully charged, well, basically. As you can see, I'm at 80% with approximately 228 estimated miles of range. I also am going against, I'm going to compare this with a better route planner as well. Unfortunately though, like as you can see on the screen, I'm going to take the northern route to Breckenridge, which is going through here. Unfortunately, on my Android device. A better route planner is saying to go south, and I can't switch it to go north route. But what you can see is it's thinking I'm going to average 426 watt hours per mile, and then I'll get there with 28% battery life. Now let's see what the actual Mach-E computer says. So trip overview, it's saying I should get there in 77 miles with 48% left. So I think it's going to be a lot less than that personally, but let's just try it out. We're going to see. That's plenty of range. There's plenty of chargers in Breckenridge too, so I'll probably just plug in while I'm hiking and stuff. So yeah, so stay tuned, and I'm going to bring you guys along because this is going to be a beautiful drive, because if you've ever been in Colorado, going through the mountains is just terrifying and exciting at the same time because you don't want to fall off a cliff, but it's pretty exciting. So I'm going to show you guys that now. The temperature changed significantly. We're looking at about 38 degrees. I'm about 41 miles away from Breckenridge, and it is starting to blow real bad. The wind is just massive right now. It's blowing the car around like crazy. Everybody's just doing about the speed limit, which is 55 to 65 miles an hour. And you could see it's a beautiful view, even though it's blowing snow like crazy. As you can see over here, even in the distance, it's just blowing. All that white is just snow coming down. But we're continuing. I have 160 miles left of range, and I have zero range anxiety right now. And again, the internal temperature for the car is set at 68. I don't even have the heater for the seats or the steering wheel on. I'm pretty comfortable. I like 68. So yeah, we're gonna just continue driving. Well, we're about 27 miles away from Breckenridge right now, and the weather has changed significantly. Check this out. It is coming down hard now, and all the vehicles that are coming in the left lane onwards are covered in snow. So I'm assuming we're gonna get snow up there. We're at about 10,000 feet of elevation. I'm at 49% of battery left and 125 miles of range left. So it's definitely chewing away at my range. And we are at 1.9 miles per kilowatt. So like I said before, with colder temperatures and different elevations going up and down constantly, like we were climbing, what, 5,000 feet now. Expect a 50% drop, which mine is roughly 40% right now. So most likely gonna fast charge once I get there. I'll just look up a location to fast charge, but the roads are getting covered now, so I will let you know once I get there. All right, guys, well, I'm in Breckenridge, Colorado, and it is very snowy, which is to be expected, I guess, at this time of year. But anyways, so let's go over the numbers. So when I started, I had 228 miles on my odometer, and I had an 80% charge. The computer estimated, so it's approximately it's exactly 75.6 miles away from that Walmart where I was charging. So we're just going to say 76 miles. The computer estimated I'd get here with 48% left. Now, in reality, I got here with 41%. So it was off by 7%. And then I have 100 miles of range left, which you can see here. So a better route planner estimated that I'd get here with 38%. So they were a little bit more conservative and went on the lower end. And a better route planner was only 3% off. And the computer for the Mach-E was 7% off. So I can understand why so many like Tesla owners and EV owners use a better route planner, because they really take into account everything. And I don't know where they're getting the data, but they're pretty accurate. So with all of that information, I feel like I can actually trust this Navi system. I thought I would be off significantly more, because what I've seen with other EVs, it's anywhere from 5 to 10% off with their nav system. And showing this, like we went up from 5,200 feet to 10,500 feet, and now we're at about 9,500 feet. So we kept going up and down mountains. It was snowing like crazy. The temperature currently is 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Like there's a lot of data that they need to simulate in order to get us here. So I'm pretty happy with the system. And so I'm going to enjoy Breckenridge right now. And then I'm going to get back with you guys and we're going to head home, and I'm going to do the exact same thing to see what the percentage is and if it's going to be off. So stay tuned. That I saw Breckenridge, I'm ready to head home. I have 77 miles left of range, which is 34%. You'll see obviously in the video I hit like a small blizzard. It was pretty nasty, but I'm still happy that the computer was able to calculate it, being only 7% off, that I hit a lot of snow. So I'm happy about that. So temperature is 25 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm gonna I already typed in home on the computer, and you can see that I have to hit Electrify America station, which is in Frisco, Colorado. I should be charging for about 15 minutes to 40%, but I'm most likely going to do longer because I'm going to head in, probably eat something, get some lunch, and then it says I should arrive home with 10%. Now, just take note that once I get to the Electrify America, I'm going to actually finally write down the stuff. It's only about 11 miles away, so it's not really going to eat into this road trip too much. But once I finish charging, then I'll give you guys the numbers and see what the computer estimates that I'm going to get home with. Because currently it's 10%, but that's going to wildly change depending on how much I actually charge. So stay tuned. All right, guys, we're on the home stretch. So I at the Walmart, I just finished charging. I actually charged up to 80% again, just to keep everything constant. But I inputted from Frisco, Colorado at the Walmart, and to go home. And currently I'm at 206 miles of range, 80%. And it's saying it's approximately 80 miles to get home, and I should have 44% once I get home. So you can see the route there. So here's the thing that's really weird. So I plugged it into a better route planner again. I don't understand what this thing is doing. I don't know if it uses Google Maps or whatnot, because the Mach-E uses a version of Google Maps. Well, this thing's taking me on a weird ass course, as you can see on the screen right now. It's taken me like east, but then cut south and then go north, which I think is really dumb, very dumb, to be honest. But what I'm gonna do is at least show you what it thinks based on that route. So that route, instead of 80 miles, it's 114 miles, and it takes 2.5 hours instead of an hour and a half. And that's not even with stopping to charge. So I don't know what this planner is doing, but it's kind of worrisome because if people really rely on this, like, it might be an issue. Anyway, so from here, I'm at 80%, and then it's saying I should get home with 46% left. So kind of about the same as the Mach-E computer, except it's taking me on a way different course. And also take note, most of this trip is actually going downhill now because I'm way up in the mountains, so we're about 5,000 feet gonna go downhill. So one great thing about EVs is going downhill, you get so much regen back, which is so nice. Like the last 12 miles was just almost a 6% grade. Well, 6% grade in multiple areas, but all downhill. And God, you just smell so much brake dust, like smoking. The one semi in front of me was, you get this like bluish white smoke coming from the brakes because, oh God, it just smells horrible. But for us, all that energy goes right back into the battery. And also, guys, like, this view is beautiful. Like, just going down the hill, and oh my gosh, I love it. Love this state. All right, guys, so I'm finally home. Thank God. That was a long drive. My efficiency was a little bit less too because I was doing like 10 to 15 over the speed limit because all these people were doing the same and passing me up, so I just started going with them. I tried to keep it like about, 65, 70, but just so many people were passing me. I think everybody was just tired at the end of the day. They wanted to get home. So anyways, what we got here is pretty good data. So we went a total of 77.3 miles, and we're at 60% remaining, which is pretty crazy. The computer, like we just talked about, said I'd have 44% remaining, but because of all the downhills, like, the efficiency just goes through the roof. Like, and it's crazy because I have 100 here. I have 152 miles left at 60%. And if you remember, I started with 206. Well, I only used, 54 miles of range in order to go over 77 miles. So that's pretty awesome. I got basically like 20 miles free. Didn't use any energy, if you want to think about it that way, I guess. But yeah, so the overall efficiency of this entire trip from start to finish, from Westminster to Breckenridge, driving around a little bit to see the sights, and then back to Westminster, I averaged 3.7 miles per kilowatt and a total of 191 miles, 5.5 hours worth of driving. And there's their efficiency, 3.7. And basically, from all of that too, the efficiency went 9% to the climate, so I have it still at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. 80% was the route. 5% was the accessories, which is basically like charging my stuff. And then 7%, which was shocking, is external temperature. Basically going from, right now it's 56 degrees, and I started, at 60-something degrees this morning. Went all the way down to the low 20s in Breckenridge. And the battery was really trying to keep itself warm. And then coming all the way back, now it's 56. We only use 7% of the entire battery supply to keep the battery happy. So that's pretty good. So I'm gonna sum all this up really quick for you. So you got it all on the screen, so you could really see all of this data on one set of the screen. And I'll explain it really super quick for you. All right, so at this point, you guys are probably like, all right, get to the point. What's all this data mean? So I'm gonna actually tell you right now. So the Ford Mustang Mach-E, Ford's algorithm does not take into account elevation. And there could be reasons why they don't do this, most likely because they don't have enough data for right now. There's just not enough cars, especially Fords, on the interstate to go through the mountains to get all this data. It's just gonna take years. Tesla took years, and it's just gonna take some time. So they really don't actually take into account the elevation. And the reason is because of all this data that I'm showing you right now. And again, when I started at Westminster at 5,200 feet, I was at 80% battery life with 228 miles of range. Well, when I plugged in Breckenridge, Colorado, it actually showed that I would have 48% of battery left. And it's approximately 76 miles to get to that destination. Well, doing some simple math, it estimated that I would use approximately 28 kilowatts of power from the battery in order to get to that destination. And if we take 76 divided by 28, we get 2.7 miles per kilowatt. So that tells me that Ford is estimating, okay, your efficiency is gonna go down about 1 mile per kilowatt, since I average about 3.7 miles per kilowatt during normal day-to-day use. Now, when I arrived, I actually had 41% battery life, which was actually a little bit less than what it estimated. And again, doing some math, that I actually used 34 kilowatts of my battery, and that equates to an average efficiency of 2.2 miles per kilowatt. Now, the difference of all that data is the computer was off by 7. And that's not as bad as I thought, because we're going from 5,200 feet to over 10,000 feet in elevation, and the computer was only off 7%. So kudos to Ford for actually getting it pretty close. Now, when I left Breckenridge and coming back to Westminster, it was about a 77-mile trip. And I topped off the gas tank at 80%, and it showed that I'd have 206 miles of range. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So I'm typing in basically home into the navigation system, and it estimates that I'd arrive with 44% of my battery left. And that equates to basically using 31 kilowatts of power. And if you do the math, it equates again to 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, when I arrived back home, the actual percentage that I arrived with was 60%. Now, doing the math, I only use 20% of the battery, which is approximately 17.6 kilowatts. And that is phenomenal. The efficiency of that is actually 4.375 miles per kilowatt hour, which is just amazing, purely amazing. So in this case, it way underestimated, and it had assumed that I would use a lot more power, but in reality, I only used 20% of my battery, and because of that, it was off by 16%. That's pretty significant, which tells me that going downhill, Ford didn't really think about, hey, these people are going to be regenning like crazy, especially going 5,000 feet in elevation downhill. And overall, what does this mean? It means that I got an overall efficiency of 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour. What does that mean? Well, I averaged 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour for the last 10,000 miles. And yes, it's going from basically 30 degrees Fahrenheit all the way to 100 degrees Fahrenheit approximately. But this tells me that I can just watch my efficiency and just know that it's basically gonna stay constant as long as you go into the mountains and come back from the mountains. Now, this doesn't correlate well that if you go through the mountains into like California and you're heading that way, it's going to be a little bit weird because you're going to be going up mountains, down mountains, etc. You're not following the same path going to and from. So the efficiency might probably go down a little bit, but it gives us EV owners, especially Ford owners, confidence that, hey, you know what, if you're used to this X miles per kilowatt hour efficiency, you're most likely going to get right around that going through the mountains. Again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you could hit the like button, I'd really appreciate it. And if you could hit that subscribe, that's even better. Let's make the YouTube algorithm gods happy, and let's just hit that like button. I really appreciate it. Until next time, guys.